Today we're going to be looking at a cloak. Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel Kazzalistic, and hi to my new subscribers. Thank you very much for joining me. So today we're going to be looking at a cloak. Now I've done quite girly colours, but I thought I'd do something a little bit different as it's Halloween today and people I know would be looking for costume ideas. So even if it's a bit late for this year, you can always start for next year, can't you? So it's a fair size. It's kind of hard to get it all on camera. What I might do is take a picture of me wearing it so you've got more of an idea of what it looks like. It has a drawstring that you do up, and then so it's basically got a hood as well as cloak. Now you can make this as long as you want. So if you wanted a cloak that went right down to the floor, you just keep going with the pattern. It's a very simple pattern, very easy to follow, and I highly recommend this. I really enjoyed making this cloak. So first and foremost, the yarn and hook. So the hook I used was a 6mm hook, and the yarn was Stylecraft alpaca tweed double knitting, and the colour is 1668, and it's called Blush. It's right there. Now, as you can see, it's kind of like a pale rosy pink, and it's got little flecks of sort of blacky grey colour through it. It's really pretty. The fibre content for this is 20% alpaca, obviously hence the name, 77% premium acrylic and 3% viscose. There is 240 metres or 262 yards in a 100-gram ball, and it is machine washable. So if you're worried about that sort of thing, if you're planning to use it a lot, then it's you know, you can wash it. It's a really simple pattern. Now the pattern I've used, it is actually a paid for pattern, but there is a free tutorial here on YouTube by Jayda in Stitches. Those of you who've been with me for a while know that I'm a big fan of Jayda. I've been following her from when she was a very teeny tiny channel and watched her grow, and I just love her patterns because they're always so effective and yet so simple to do, and her instructions are always beautifully clear. So basically what you do is you start with the hood is made in two pieces, and you start with a chain, and then it's a single crochet row, and then basically the rows go 2 double crochet in one stitch, miss a stitch, 2 double crochet in the next. This is US tones or trebles if you're in the UK, and then you go right the way down, and then on the next row you do a chain, I think because either chain 1 or chain 2, I can't remember what she said now, but and then you skip the first stitch, single crochet into that and work, and it does make your work slant like that. So you'd have a straight edge at the top, and what does make it slant off, so don't panic if yours does that. Mine slanted a lot more than Jayda's did, and it still worked out. So you do that for a specific number of rows, which is obviously within the tutorial, and you make 2 pieces. You then stitch. You do one key thing with this is I do recommend using stitch markers to mark the right and wrong side. That is something that Jayda recommends, because when you come to sewing it together, it can get a little bit confusing, particularly if you've done it all in one colour. So I do recommend using stitch markers for that, and also for something else which I'm going to tell you about in a minute when I get onto the body. So basically it is stitched, this is seam there and a seam there. So you stitch the 2 edges and then you put that to one side. The cloak, the main body is actually started on this raw edge at the top here. You do a couple of, I'm trying to think now because it's quite such a big thing, it takes a while to remember. Right, so I think it was half doubles I started with, or singles, I'm not sure, but you basically do some chains which create, I don't know how well this is going to come out because I've actually got the cord through, but there's some eyelet holes, you can see there. So you're doing 3 stitches and then chaining 3 stitches, and you're skipping some stitches obviously to create the holes. I think most people know how to do eyelet, don't they? So that's how your cord ends up getting threaded through to hold your cloak on. And then for the main body, basically you have 6 points that you increase. They're very rough, they don't have to be exact. Jayda follows you completely through it. You mark them with a stitch marker and you increase in roughly the same spot on every row. For a set number of rows, down to about, I think it was about down to about here. So it's only a very short piece that's increased. And then from then on, the rest of the body is just worked. I mean, all the stitches for the body of the cloak are worked in the same way as the hood, in that you do a row of single crochet. It's basically a 4 pattern repeat. So you have a row of single crochet, so you crochet in every stitch. You just obviously start with a chain at the start, crochet in every single stitch and skip the chain 3 at the end. Then you will do a chain 3, a double crochet into the same stitch. This is all in US terminology. Skip a stitch, 2 double crochet in the next stitch, and keep repeating that. The next row you will do a chain 1, and then you will skip the first stitch, single crochet right the way along, double crochet if you're in the UK, and you will do a single crochet into the top of the chain 3, then you chain 3, double crochet into the same stitch, skip 1 stitch, 2 double crochet in the next, and so on. That's all US terminology. So that's trebles and doubles if you're in the UK. And that's it. And basically you can work it for as long as you want. Now, I'm just going to grab my notes, because I did make some just very rough notes. Now, Jayda in her tutorial, she was using obviously different yarn to me. I'm only using a DK because obviously UK, it's harder to get worsted weight yarns. So Jayda did 49 rows for her cloak. I actually did 56 rows. That's on the main body, so that was basically 13 repeats of the 4 pattern repeat. Hope that makes sense. The top of the body, where I said there's increases, basically it's 14 row of increases from the start of the body. That's including the eyelets at the start. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So just making sure I haven't missed anything. I was making notes as going along so I didn't sort of miss too much. Like I said, you will need stitch markers just to mark where your increases are. Of course, if you're very experienced, you should be able to spot where your increases are. For me personally, I use stitch markers, not because I didn't know how to obviously spot an increase, but it just made it easier visually and sped the process up. For the cord, now Jane just... Jane? Who's Jane? Jayda. Oh dear, it's one of them days today. Jayda, for her cord, she just did a chain of 176. Now I did a chain of 176 and I single crocheted right the way back along just to make the cord a bit thicker, because I'm donating this to charity and I wanted it to be durable. And then basically once you finish the main body, you line the hood up with the top up piece of the body, and you basically stitch across this raw edge. The number of stitches for your hood should match the top of your body. Mine looked way out when I laid it out flat, and I did panic a little bit, so I put a stitch marker holding the 2 pieces together either end and sort of roughly eyeballed it in the middle, and then whip stitched it across. And actually, as I worked across, the number of stitches did work out. So if you do find that it looks way out, don't panic, it should all match up. So for the eyelet cord, basically is just weaved, start from the inside and weaved in and out. So you can see there's the cord there. It's just weaved in and out of the eyelet stitches, and that's how you secure it. And then to finish it off, you do once the hood is stitched on, you're doing a row of single crochet, which is here, and then you're doing the pattern repeat of the 2 double crochet in every other stitch, and then you are doing, I've got to remember what that was now, a single crochet, and then you do a single crochet in the final row. So you're just working basically, so just to give it an edge, so you're working up around the front edge of the hood and down again, and that just helps bring the hood over a little bit, and that's it. It looks terribly complicated. It's actually very simple. Lovely repeating pattern. You can sit and watch TV or watch a film. You haven't overly got to think about it. I found it useful to jot down the full pattern repeat because I was using the tutorial rather than the pattern. So I jotted that down just so that I knew, and what I actually did was on the first row of every repeat, I put a stitch marker at the end just so I knew that was row 1 of my full pattern repeat, so I could then work out where I was, so I could put the work down and pick it up without getting too lost. That was what helped me personally. Of course everybody works differently, but that's something that I found particularly useful. So stitch markers are your friend with this project. It is lovely and simple, little bit of sewing but not too much, and I just absolutely, I really love the result. This yarn was lovely to work with, did split very slightly, does shed a lot because it's got alpaca fur in it, so just be aware of that if you have got allergies, but it's beautifully soft, really warm, and I highly recommend it. I can't speak highly enough. I had a different project actually planned for sharing for today, which is Halloween, and I didn't get any further with it, so this has become my Halloween project. I just couldn't put it down. I really loved it. This has been one of my favourite projects to work on for a very long time, so I can't speak more highly of it. So great job, Jayda, if you're watching, because I know she sometimes does. Yeah, so that's it for the craft bits. I hope you've enjoyed that, and I hope that's given you some costume ideas, or even some practical things if you want something different that you could wear out sort of kind of as a coat, I suppose. You know, as autumn we don't always want, you know, thick winter coats, do we? Some people don't like ponchos, so this is always an alternative. It doesn't have to be a costume piece, but of course it can be. So my one will be going off to the Refugee Project for Woolly Hugs, which is a charity here in the UK. If you haven't heard of them, I will put a link for their website and their Facebook group down. They have lots of different projects. The Refugee Project is great because you can use any yarn. There's no restrictions on that project, and it benefits people who basically have nothing. And particularly as it's getting colder, obviously you appreciate warm clothing and hats and scarves and this. So I thought if somebody didn't have a coat, this might help keep them warm. Particularly with the alpaca, it is very warm. So that's it for the craft bit. I hope I haven't gone through that too quickly, but because it's such an easy pattern repeat, there's not an awful lot terribly complicated to explain. Life update, not a huge amount going on in my life at the minute. I had one of my, well, he is my very oldest friend come and visit me a couple of nights ago, so that was really lovely. We had a big catch up, and I always get very excited to see him, so so that's been really nice because I don't often see many people, so that's been really good for me. If you're new to the channel, I'm actually a full-time carer, so I'm actually quite restricted on how much I can go out. Yeah, so it's nice to have friends visit. I really do appreciate it. So find out who your true friends are when you're in a situation like this. Yeah, so not an awful lot else to tell you. I am planning to do a little video of the animals that we have here. I've had somebody request they'd like to see my birds in particular, but I'm going to show all 3 of our pets that we have here. If they choose to behave and be nice on camera. But I'm going to do that as a separate video and probably pop that up in the week, just to mix it up on the channel a little bit. I just want to say thank you to everybody who commented and said they enjoyed the Suffolk countryside video. It was just something I did on the spur of the moment. I know a lot of you are abroad, perhaps have never been to the UK, so I thought you'd like to see kind of what the area generally is around where I live. so it's all the surrounding area for the town. I live in a fairly small town, and yeah, it's beautiful countryside, quite flat, but it is very pretty. So I'm very lucky to live here. So I'm glad that a lot of you did enjoy that. Yeah, so that's it. So the next video is actually going to be a small yarn haul that's been very kindly donated by the lovely Donna, who is in America. She sent me some supplies. I know what brand they all are, I just won't know the colours. So, but I hate yarn, so I thought you might like to see that. So that will be the video at the weekend. So that's it for today, and I've no idea what I'm going to be doing after that. It just depends what I get finished. So I hope you've enjoyed the little Halloweeny series, and I hope that's given you some ideas for the children, for decoration, costumes, etc. It's been fun to do. It's certainly been a challenge for me, and it's certainly put me out of my comfort zone. So yeah, it's been quite enjoyable for me. So wherever you are in the world, please be safe tonight if you are going out trick-or-treating. Just remember there are idiots in the world, that's a polite way to put it, people that will do things to harm stuff. So please, whatever you're doing for Halloween, please be safe, enjoy it, and have a lovely time if you're spending time with little ones trick-or-treating. So that's it. So until next time, remember to stay well, happy crafting, and until next time, remember to stay true to yourself. Bye.